Hi guys, I'm back again today with the last episode to the Ruby Frank case. The last part. Yeah. Let's see. Let's hear about Pam and other things that we don't know yet. So before we decide, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button, and I've reacted to episode one. I mean part one, part two, three, and here we are, right? So let's begin.
Believed in all of this. Even later, he tells authorities that he supported his wife through helping Chad, quote, choose honest and responsible choices. He also says that was what the internet uproar was, right? Indicating he does not side with the internet and the public's view even few years down the line, but rather he sides with Ruby. He argues later in People magazine, a lot of the physical violence that was described was hidden and kept from me. I didn't even know those things happened. And I think Ruby was really careful to hide a lot of that from me. As far as the things like sleeping on the beanbag, removing Chad from sports, teams, and things, all of those directives came from Jody, the licensed mental health counselor. I definitely voiced my opposition and concern, and it was always flipped back onto me saying, well, this is why your children are disobedient. This is why you're having problems with your children because you just enable them all the time. You are the problem, Kevin. But Kevin is also there recording when Ruby is yanking their youngest daughter off the table and screaming at her for interrupting the vlog. He's the one that laughs and says, cut, in front of the camera lens with his two fingers. So is it all Ruby and Jody hiding the escalating abuse from Kevin? Or did Kevin have a pretty good idea that this was happening? August 30th, 2023, when the two youngest are rescued, Kevin is in the interview room with detectives answering questions.
Was that tape out, or
Yes.
when they rescued the kid, they brought him in immediately
Kevin came to the police station.
when he heard about it?
Oh, this is crazy. Okay, so Ruby and Jody both know that R, the young boy, had escaped. So they're going around the neighborhood looking for R. And that's when Jody realizes the police are at the neighbor's house. A bunch of ambulance are coming. She's like, that's why she's on the phone with her attorney when the police come to search her home. Ruby was out looking for R. So she's driving around the road. She gets a call from Jody, like, hey, the police, like, it's over, it's done. She calls Kevin and is like, I need you to go to the police station and pick up the kids. Tell them that they're fine, everything's fine, the kids are lying, blah, blah, blah. She's like, bring them home. I trust you. Kevin thinks this is my time to shine. I'm going to get Ruby back. This is my time to step up and be the husband she needs me to be. He shows up at the police station. The police are asking, who told you to come here? He's like, I'd rather not say. He's still trying to
What?
protect Ruby.
So are we going to see when he actually find out what happened, like in that moment?
Yes.
So his whole reaction and all of
Yes.
that. Okay.
Now, he says there was a no contact boundary. Did you have a no contact order in place? Order? No, this was between me and my wife. AKA, he's saying he did not have a legal requirement to stay away. It's just kind of shitty that he didn't do anything for his kids. So they ask, did she ask you not to contact the kids? Ruby invited me to leave the home while I thought about the choices that I've made in my life in the way that I've treated her. So I left. Is there custodial paperwork that denies you of your rights to the kids? No custodial paperwork at all. This was just a verbal agreement between my wife and I. I'm curious, when you guys had the previous 8 Passengers YouTube channel, you guys got a lot of heat for neglect and child abuse. A lot of people commented those things on there. Why were they commenting those things?
This is happening on that day?
It was that night that the kids were rescued. I mean, it had been pretty much the whole day, it seems.
Oh, so they already picked up all these information.
Yes.
Like a passenger, you guys did this, you guys
Yes.
had controversies, boom, boom, boom.
I mean, by that point, if you Google 8 Passengers, it's probably the first few articles that come up. They were known mainly for their controversy rather than for being YouTubers.
I see.
Now, they're asking, a lot of people commented those things on there. Why were they commenting those things? That's a good question. I mean, we had a son who was acting out in a very selfish behavior. He chose to sleep on a beanbag. So 9 months later, he made a lot of changes in his life. He was ready to move into his own bedroom, made a video about it. In the video, he mentioned something to the effect of, I've been sleeping for 9 months on a beanbag. That is what the uproar was about. Who is this female Jody that your wife lives with? She is a therapist and a life coach. Do you respect her? Yeah, I think she's a very honest and truthful person. I know her to be an honest and very trustworthy individual. He's also asked, during your marriage, how was disciplining your kids? How would you discipline your kids? Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question. Are you aware of the physical condition of your children? No. No, I've chosen to trust my wife with my children. That was part of the agreement of our separation. My job is to financially provide. The police start filling him in on what's happening. They say, so I don't recall the exact time, but we received a phone call from our dispatch that a 12-year-old boy was knocking on doors asking for food and water. He was severely emaciated. Kevin, university professor of civil engineering, says, what is emaciated? Which a lot of netizens think that he's playing innocent and dumb, like who knows, but the cops continue. Skinny, scrawny, malnutrition, not enough food and water to sustain life. I'm sorry, what? He had duct tape on his extremities, on his hands, on his ankles. There were rope burns that were used to tie him down. Take a second and think about what I just said. That's the condition of your son. Given that information, your son was taken to the hospital. A warrant has been applied and granted by the Department of Child and Family Services to remove them from your wife's care. So no one right now is going to have access to these two children based on their physical condition. Do you understand that? I understand. Would you condone that behavior? Would I condone that behavior? No. Again, I don't know the details. I don't know what's going on. But as you described, that sounds horrible.
Does he sound like he was worried for the kids in that moment?
Not extensively. Maybe it's shock. Maybe it's... I mean, there are some reports that Jody convinced the whole Ruby and Kevin Franke that police were evil and they were going to be bad players in the second coming. He's not crying. He's not emotional. Again, maybe he's in shock, but one of the first things he asks after this line of questioning, after being told that his son and his daughter were emaciated, he says,
what's going to happen with my wife? I love my wife. I don't know if charges against my wife.
I think given the circumstances, that's highly...
This is the same thing I said yesterday, and I think we're just gonna keep repeating it. It's always my wife, my wife, my wife. They don't care about the children. I'm tired. Oh, this is pissing me off. Oh.
appropriate, but again...
He tells the authorities that, again, after they tell him that his kids have to be hospitalized because they did not have enough food or water to sustain life, he says, I trust her. I love my wife, and I trust my wife.
I trust her, but I love my wife, and I trust my wife.
If he didn't leave the house, if he was at the house, it sounded like he would still carry on this energy of, I trust her, this is why. Devils, we need to discipline the kids, we need to do this. He's been this way for so long.
It's like, when would he have put his foot down? I guess we would never know, right?
I would expect this is the moment he realized,
He needs to go to jail.
He says, I mean, this feels like getting run over by a steam truck, what you're sharing with me today. I'm interested in all the facts. But you understand our facts are that you have a child that is emaciated, malnutrition, that has marks. I don't know what to do. You realize that I have a picture of my family on my wall and I look at it every day and I work and I work. He slams his hand down on the table.
And I look at it every day and I work every day so I can get back to my family. Save my family.
What you're sharing with me just sounds like a made-up story. I have no idea what you're talking about. It sounds like a horror movie. This point, it does sound like he's genuinely lost. Like he doesn't understand that this is actually happening. He puts his hands up to cover his face and he starts sobbing. But then he says, and I get that you're all doing your jobs. I get it. I understand. But this is my wife. I just want my kids. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why these things you described happened. I don't know. It's almost like I just want to say, I'm sorry. You must have somebody else, because it's like, am I in the right conference room right now? I'm having a hard time accepting this and dealing with this. You're telling me you're taking my kids from me? Over the past year, we've had zero communications regarding the kids. I've had no reason to believe or think that there was anything going on for all intents and purposes. I woke up this morning looking at the picture of my family and making my commitment today, as I do every day, that I'm willing to live an honest and virtuous and responsible life today. And what you're sharing with me just feels like a sucker punch.
What you're sharing with me feels like a sucker punch. If I still have a family, and I don't know what my plan. My plan is to go to God.
Sure.
And to figure this out.
Right.
I am just heartbroken what you all are sharing with me. I feel responsible. I wish I was a better husband.
Sir, you have 6 kids. Be a better dad. He says, I just want my family back. I just want my wife back. He later admits in the documentary that during the interrogation, he, quote, I was afraid to do anything that would point them towards Ruby. Why? Because I was trying to protect her. And one part of this whole story that some netizens who really do not like Kevin keep pointing out, and with valid reason, is, first of all, the interview with the police he does not seem like he's that concerned about his kids at all. And later, he tries to sue Sherry, the eldest daughter, the one that tried the hardest to protect the 2 youngest. Kevin is in the parking lot of the local police station. There's body cam footage of this. The officers hand over 2 bins, like laundry bins, filled with notebooks, journals, a MacBook. He's got his trunk open. He's surveying everything inside of each bin almost a little too slowly, like he's taking inventory of every single journal that's in there. And it prompts the officers to ask him, is it all there? Yes.
Yeah, explain to me again why this was not robbery.
Basically, Sherry went into the family home with a few officers to collect some of her belongings. She collected a few journals and the passports of her parents, which, by the way, I think you can draw your own conclusions from that, but it feels like she's trying to prevent them from fleeing almost. I don't know why she would need their passports. She collects their passports and a few other things from the home under police surveillance. She leaves the house. Kevin goes into the house. He freaks out because he's missing those things. He calls the police. They're like, oh, maybe your daughter took them. We escorted her to the house to pick up a few things. He's like, this is robbery. She's not allowed in the house. She willingly just returns it all to the police station. She's like, okay, I mean, if he wants it back, it's fine. Gives it to them. They give it back to him. And he's like, how is this not robbery?
That's crazy. So it's very clear that he still placed Ruby in front of his child.
Yeah.
Right? Very clear. He's protecting Ruby's interest because that's my wife and I's passport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the police tell him, because it's a civil issue, you guys are a family. She's been in the house before. You haven't been in the house in a year. She had interest in those items. She didn't take them with the intention to deprive you of them. So that's the theft code. We have to prove intent to deprive you of the items, and this wasn't her intent in having them. So the detective sergeant said, we're not going to charge her with anything. Kevin is standing there, shutting his eyes closed like he's infuriated by all of this. Okay, I'll have to do some more research on that. You're welcome to do that if you want to follow up with the detective yourself. Kevin had this whole little blip in the timeline where he is married to the idea of suing his own daughter, Sherry, for burglary, which is just so strange considering the police are like, you have no grounds to press charges. What are you saying right now?
And this is like a while later. This is not the first day, right?
Yeah, it's like a few days. Maybe like a week or 2 later.
So it's no longer in the shock of, I just want to protect my wife.
Yes. It is very bizarre. Very bizarre. So a lot of netizens think it's just very telling that Kevin is wanting to wage lawsuits against his firstborn child. Now, Sherry specifically took her parents' passports, which again, very interesting. More interesting when you hear from Jessie Hildebrand, Jody's niece, that when Jody was going through everything, her issues in court with Adam, she fled the country briefly.
Oh, Jody did.
Mm-hmm. Just seems like maybe there was an idea, maybe there was a thought, maybe there was a suspicion, an inkling, a gut feeling, intuition. Speaking of the journals that were taken from the home and subsequently returned to Kevin, there is an aspect of this case that hasn't been uncovered quite yet, and those are the pen papers. Apparently, Jody instructed Ruby to write down all of her visions in a leather-bound journal that they called the pen papers. Nobody else was allowed to read these pen papers. This is separate from the journal that was discovered and was entered into evidence, which was Ruby's documentation of the torture that happened. This is separate. In a separate police interview, Kevin asks, have you found the pen papers? The police tell him, we have Ruby's journal. No, so she wouldn't write that stuff she wrote in the pen papers. She would not write that in her journal. The stuff she wrote in the pen papers was not intended to be read by anybody until God would decree them to be written into scripture for the whole world to read. So it described all the visions and trances and
Scripture. The disrespect.
everything that Jody and Ruby went into.
Just gonna
If you're
charge.
wondering, what kind of visions Jodi would have. Kevin says that one of her visions is Jodi walking along the beach with someone next to her, Jesus. He stops and he turns to her,
These people are high.
walk on the water. Jodi would have these visions of her walking on the water with the Heavenly Father and the Heavenly Mother, and she learned that in heaven she had this massive pet lion named Charles. She would ride around this pet lion, and Charles is the giant pet. She would ride on it. I don't know. Are we sure she's not on drugs? A lot of people believe.
Told you, these people are high. It doesn't. Either they're on something, or the brain function sadly isn't wired correctly.
I don't know. Are we sure she's not on drugs? A lot of people believe whatever is in those pen papers would provide much more information on how much Kevin was involved exactly. But other netizens disagree. They say if he was involved, then finding those pen papers would probably incriminate him. Now, side note, it does seem like the police did find a leather-bound notebook, but it was revealed to have been empty. And there are speculations that a third party, Pam, a woman named Pam, went in and allegedly tossed out the pen papers. We don't know for sure. That is the speculation. That is the netizen argument. That is the conspiracy. And I don't think that with Ruby and Jodi being behind bars, things are over. A recent civil lawsuit was filed by a man named Michael, who states that his ex-wife, the mother of his children, is still a devoted follower of Ruby and Jodi. She refuses to acknowledge their arrests and their guilty pleas. She is on board with connections still to this day.
Who is this?
This is a couple that went into marriage counseling with Jodi.
This is not Pam.
No, this is not Pam. But he's saying, like, my wife fully believes this stuff still to this day. So now netizens are divided on who to mainly blame. Everyone's to blame, but who is the most to blame has been a conversation. There's a huge group of people.
I feel like in this situation, it's Ruby. In this situation, it's Ruby. Because she found, she was already crazy herself, and she drugged in Satan himself, and both of them became evil. So, both of them are evil, not became, but they're already. Um, so yeah, both of them are to be blamed equally, but more so Ruby. I mean, in like with the case of Adam, right? Jodi, obviously, is to blame. But in this case, I feel like even without Jodi, Ruby is also crazy. I don't want to use that word because, I don't want to use that word. Like, she's already,
that are concerned that Jodi might get away with less time and repercussions than Ruby because of a huge focus of this case has been Ruby for obvious reasons. These are her children that she has the duty to protect that she failed, but additionally, she has the YouTube audience. A lot of people are terrified that if Jodi gets out, she's going to go straight back into counseling. One Redditor explains that her husband was in the group counseling for 7 years. They spent over $100,000 on Jodi's counseling programs. And over the years, it just taught them, brainwashed them into thinking that the husband was this perverse monster that needed to be watched out for. Jodi would also just do some really odd things. She said, one especially odd week, my husband attended, one man was struggling with looking at gay porn, and they decided this man wasn't actually gay, but just hadn't received enough healthy touch from his father growing up. So Jodi said the cure to this healthy masculine touch, they made my husband lay down and cuddle him, spooning him the whole meeting. It was just strange. Men would switch off every week who were supposed to cuddle him. So every week they had a different person cuddling him. So a lot of people think that Jodi is doing all of this because she is very upset at the world that she grew up in a conservative household that did not allow her to be who she is, which is not an excuse. It just seems like this is a reoccurring theme that keeps happening, and she keeps taking her anger out on people. Sherry writes in her book, a part of me pitied her, a repressed, self-loathing, deeply damaged woman, trapped in an environment in which she felt compelled to conceal her true nature, surrounded by women who she couldn't have, women who were married to men she resented. In her mind, this was her only path to justice: crush the sperm donors and liberate the females. Other people think Jody's bad, but it's still Ruby and Kevin's duty to protect their own kids.
Yeah.
A lot of netizens say that you can brainwash each other. Yeah, you can, all you want. But nobody could brainwash them into harming their kids. That's what netizens with children feel. One person comments, when the little boy was asked who put the duct tape on him, who poured pepper and honey into his wounds, he told authorities it was his mom. Another netizen writes, she was happy for the kids to be abused until she was caught. Then it was someone else's fault and she was controlled by Jody. I think she's worse than Jody. She allowed her own children to be abused, and that's gross. Or another reading, does she not realize she's worse than Jody? These are her kids. She tortured her kids for years and enjoyed it. One netizen comment says, crazy that when Jody was possessed, she invited her into their home and Ruby slept in the bed with her, comforting her. But when her kids are, quote, possessed, she chained them up and almost took their lives. I would say that most netizens believe that both Jody and Ruby are equally at fault. And yes, Jody has been wanting to do this to people. She had been doing this to people like her own niece, Jessie Hildebrandt. But Ruby clearly had something deep inside of her that let this happen.
Yes.
Adam, another victim of Jody's from part 2, says, now here's what I do want to say. I don't like Ruby Franke, but I don't know her. I just think that you have to be a selfish person to fall for Jody's stuff. She's got a certain kind of carrot that gets a certain kind of people. But Ruby Franke would have never done any of this stuff if Jody Hildebrandt hadn't been the mastermind and just completely created this. Sherry, Ruby's own daughter, states in the new documentary, looking back on it, I don't think Ruby's a good person. I think she was already an abusive mother before, and then obviously it escalated dramatically in the last couple of years. And the fact that Ruby went as far as she did, I wouldn't blame that on Jody. She just set off things in Ruby that were already in her heart. But one person that does not get talked about as much is a woman named Pam Botcher. Pam is the president of Connections Foundation, who also happens to be a mother of 7 and a grandmother of 14. If you go on the Connections website, it's all about Jody, Pam, and Ruby. They were known as the Three Musketeers. Now, not that Kevin is arguably the most credible person according to the internet in this case, but in one police interview, he mentions, again, if they find the pen papers, quote, if you're interested in Pam Botcher, that's going to tie Pam Botcher to all of this. What's in those documents? What's in the pen papers? And Pam is accused by netizens of going in and getting rid of the pen papers before the police get access to them. The 2 teenage daughters were found not in the Franke house. So the 2 youngest kids were found in Jody Hildebrandt's house, which was like 300 miles away from the Franke home. The Franke house was empty. Police knocked down the doors. They searched the entire place, cleared it. The kids are not in there. The kids are eventually found in Pam Botcher's house. They track them down. They find the 2 middle children, the 2 teenage daughters, and they're asking Pam, why do you have these children with you? And she says, well, I'm having guests coming, and she came and she did some cleaning for me. Talking about the teenage girls.
Well, I'm having guests coming, and she came and did some cleaning for me.
That is crazy.
Pam and her husband are standing in the doorway, not letting the officers in, but also not leaving the house, which the officers are instructing. The officers do have a warrant for Pam's home, but it's in his car, and he doesn't want to risk anything happening to the girls who are right there in the living room behind Pam and her husband. So they're demanding, like, we just need to see that the girls are okay. Like, we have a warrant. It's in the car. Like, we gotta. And again, maybe some people are rude, but I would be concerned. I would not be annoyed or ticked off if the police were making sure 2 children in my home were okay. However, the part that really gets me about Pam is the officer is trying to explain that she's just detained. She's not under arrest. They simply have to make sure the children are okay. They say, as long as she's not tied up and bound, and Pam responds, I did make her scrub the floor.
Those are my friends' daughters.
Okay. So your friend's daughters then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is Ruby Franke's daughter.
Okay.
She's a friend of ours. She comes over and helps me every once in a while to do cleaning and stuff.
And they vacuumed and stuff. And I have company coming tonight out from Costa Rica, but she did do this on her own free will. Pam claims Ruby called her earlier to ask her to pick up the girls because she had a family emergency. Didn't go into detail on what it was, according to Pam. Pam continues. She said, would you mind watching the girls while I'm gone? She was leaving. I said, yeah, I did that because I need some help cleaning. I just have house guests coming tonight. So I said, yeah, that'd be great. Could they come clean? And she said, yeah, they'd love to do that. Do you remember in part 1, Ruby was obsessed with them cleaning? And like they would clean the baseboards. That would be punishment for them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Also, Pam's husband has the energy of a potato that has all of those green sprouts and is probably poisonous. He is told that Ruby Franke, the mother of the 2 teenage girls that he likely just watched scrub his floors, was arrested for child abuse. He says, the biggest thing that bugs me is that my wife is sitting in a patrol car. That's the thing that gets me. I feel bad for my wife. She's sitting there, and this is the first time in the world that I've ever had a police car sitting in my driveway. I got all the neighbors driving by. Does nobody in this entire town have their head screwed on straight? Who cares about what John from down the street thinks? Get a grip, everyone.
It seems like all these people in this circle, they don't care about kids. They feel like maybe kids were born into this world to just be their servants for some reason. Seems like it. Or to be their torture dolls. Like, what the fudge are these adults? They're so. Oh, these adults are pissing me off. They have no brains. Feel bad for them. You know why? Because they're so. They feel. I don't even know.
Who cares about what John from down the street thinks? Get a grip, everyone. Your friend was arrested for child abuse and you have 2 of her kids in your home. He also goes on a whole unsolicited rant about drug testing. He comments that there's so many officers at his house now. This is like what happens when there's some big drug bust or something. You can run a background check on me. We're not too concerned with that right now, sir. Been drug tested, I've been everything, you know? Is that the only way to detain someone, though, is to put them in handcuffs? Again, concerned about his wife. Pam is fine. Pam's a grown-up. It's fine. Is there not one single adult in this case that cares about children more than themselves and fellow adults? I'm so perplexed. Pam's gonna be fine. She's in the back of a cop car, AC blasting. They probably have the radio on for her. She's fine. And then he goes back to, at least you guys don't have the lights flashing, right? That would be even worse. I never had a police car in my driveway. Later, when more officers arrive to question Pam, she says confidently that the kids were here to clean her house. She also stops mid-sentence, mouth agape, just staring at the road, and she says, oh, I was gonna say, if that was one of my neighbors, that would be embarrassing. She complains, I know you were just here trying to do your jobs, but these girls come to clean my house, and pretty soon I'm in the back of a police car, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I know it's not your fault. You're just trying to do your job, but I don't even watch scary police shows or anything. I'm such a scaredy cat. Okay, pick me, Pam. A netizen comments, in all these interviews, not one person who is detained or questioned asked if the children were okay. Not one. Another comment, why is the couple not shocked that their friends are being accused of child abuse? They need to be investigated as well. Picking up your good friend's kids to have them clean your house, zero concern when hearing about the child abuse allegations. They're all in some sort of child abuse cult, it seems. Jody's niece, Jessie, says that they remember Pam back in the day when they were held captive in Jody's home. They state, when I was living with Jody, Pam Botcher was around. She was Jody's best friend, and I didn't realize that she was connected in this. I mean, I have very strong feelings towards Pam because of not what she was directly applying. She wasn't actually involved, but she was one of the people that was constantly surveilling the surveillance of reporting back to Jody. Sherry states in her book about Jody, Ruby, and Pam, and not in like an accusatory way, but she just states they were the 3 musketeers of the apocalypse, ready to follow each other literally to the ends of the earth. Again, any and all allegations against Pam Botcher are completely just netizen speculations. She has not been charged of any crime, nor has she been considered a public suspect of any case, but it's just something that has made people think. Which brings us to Kevin. Now, I do want to mention one thing about Kevin. I think Kevin is very complicated. I know a lot of people online seem to have very strong opinions about Kevin, especially with this new documentary coming out. I don't think it's doing him any favors, and I'm hoping to summarize both sides. But it seems like Kevin is trying to be a part of his children's lives, but more importantly, his children are working on rebuilding their relationship with Kevin. And I think for that alone, I don't think it's my place to have an opinion. In defense of Kevin, one Reddit post reads, please help, Connection Solitude Program. Has anyone heard of the Solitude thing? I have a friend who is in the Connections group for over a year, and I've seen the extreme negative effects that it's had on his self-esteem and overall happiness levels, and it seems to be destroying his marriage. But recently, things went up 10 notches when he sent out texts telling his family and friends that he will no longer be communicating with them at all, and he wouldn't be communicating with his own wife either. It has been about 2 months since anyone has heard from him. He didn't even call or text his mom for Mother's Day. He He says he's doing his time of solitude until his connection with God has improved. We're all extremely worried about him. Any advice would help greatly, especially if anyone has information on this solitude program. Thanks in advance. One person comments, I'm so sorry. I also drank the Kool-Aid for about 10 minutes. I think the individuals who are doing this, they're trying to set boundaries. So I get the feeling the more you pry and try to have contact, the more they see this as control. So they're saying this is a thing that Jodi does consistently. She forces men out of their families and refuses to let them have contact with any of their family members. So people think she was trying to do this with Adam Paul Steed from part 2. Maybe she did this with Kevin Franke as well. Kevin was asked by authorities why he and Ruby had separated, and he said,
The reasons are because of ways that I treated my wife and of my own addictions that I was working through and seeking help on with
So a lot of people in support and in defense of Kevin think that the same thing that happened to Adam is now happening to Kevin. The same process. Sherry does write in her book that Kevin even noticing an attractive woman at the gym was evidence of his astronomical level of distortion, and even speaking to a female coworker would be an unspeakable crime. Kevin later states, I think it's relatively easy for somebody out here who's armchairing this and looking at this experience going, well, why didn't he just do that? I would have done that if it was day one and Jodi came to me and said, yeah, you're selfish. You need to go into separation and repent. I would have told her to take a hike. But he's saying the indoctrination was slow. He's asked, why didn't you stand up to say no to this nonsense? He says, I know. And I know. And if I dwell on that question, it eats me alive. So some netizens think that he's just a weak man, but likely not vicious. They think that he sounds remorseful and he's probably in a lot of pain that, we as netizens cannot really relate to. He says, I'm incredibly grateful for the heroics of my son in saving his life, his sister's life, and probably his other sisters in our family as well. He was truly a hero. It's a lot to deal with every day. The questions of what if, what could have been, what should have happened, what I should have done, what others should have done. It haunts you. And it's my struggle and others to learn how to deal with that and to do what we can to make the best of our lives moving forward. Sherry would state, which I'm not saying I think she's forgiven him or defending him, because he can be a weak man and still be a horrendous parent and could face legal repercussions. I'm just saying. She writes, Kevin had as much autonomy as a wet noodle in a hurricane. But many more netizens think the main difference between Kevin and Adam is that Adam actually fought for his kids. Kevin did not. Which brings us to the big group of netizens who are not fans of Kevin, which it does get worse by the documentary's release. A lot of netizens are hung up on the fact that he talks about Ruby as if she is God's gift to earth, and he will always put her before his 6 children. He says, a lot of people will look at me and say, how could he ever do that? I would never do that. But for those who respectfully ask me about that and say, how could you? My response is that, well, who do you love more than anybody? And sometimes it's a child, sometimes it's a spouse, they say. And I say, well, what would happen if that individual that you love more than anybody started to go a different way and was inviting you and encouraging you? Would you just easily be able to let them go out of your life and say goodbye? Kevin has asked, do you still love her? He says, definitely, I've always loved her. Even though she abused the kids, you still love her? Oh yeah, the actions that she did are atrocious, but I still feel a longing. I miss her. All the delivery rooms, all the moments holding our children. It's easy for the world to hate that woman. And so many people want me to join in on that chorus, but I cannot turn off all those other memories. How do you make sense of all of this? This really is a story of love, of hope, of family, but this is also a story of deception, of control, and ultimately it's a story of faith. If you put your faith in the wrong hands, you could lose everything. Many netizens just can't get over the fact that, sure, call it faith, call it love, call it the devil, call it whatever your heart pleases, but how can you find out from the officers that your children are emaciated, have been taken to the hospital, and instead of asking how they are, demanding to see them, asking what you can do to support them, how do you just sit there and tell the police that you trust your wife? Some netizens, for a lack of better words, they just find Kevin a little bit hypocritical. In a recent interview, Kevin says,
another thing that I hope people think about after watching this is the role that social media and the internet plays in our lives today.
The truths, the falsities of it, the dangers that can come when you place yourself or your family or your children into the public spotlight on social media. which is completely valid. But a lot of netizens are confused. Like, weren't you the man that wanted to sell your soul to the YouTube overlords for $85? He says, there's a lot of incentives out there today to do that. But I hope that people realize and really stop and recognize, is this really what's best for my kids? Not just financially, but emotionally and psychologically. Now, Kevin has said that he regrets putting his children online and the whole family vlogging era of his life. But people think, I mean, yeah, you could try to be an advocate against family vlogging, but I think the way that he talks about it, people are saying you don't show enough remorse yet. You just kind of go into like advocacy mode. It feels weird. Many netizens also think it's strange that Kevin is just acting like vlogging was just Ruby's thing when she was the one primarily vlogging, yes. But it seemed like he reaped the financial benefits of putting their children out there. And the worst part is, in a recent interview with People magazine, he said, the things you see that are concerning in the documentary, such as the sternness, the yelling at the kids to get them to comply in the filming, and those kinds of things.
I think a lot of people that aren't familiar with family content creation would look at that and go, that's horrible. That's abusive. And it is abusive. But what I want people to understand is that was not unique to our family. I don't know a single family content creator that did not have interactions like that with their children.
With one outraged netizen writing, sir, it is abusive, but we weren't the only ones doing it. Is that your... Also, raising your voice is not the same as grabbing your child's face out of anger, as he saw her do while recording it. Others comment, I didn't know it was that bad. Sir, you were recording. Make it make sense, please. Another comment reads, a gentle reminder that Kevin Franke ordered a cease and desist to anyone who raised concerns about the children's safety and tried to have his oldest daughter arrested. Kevin's attorney would argue for Kevin that Jodi was the one that made sure he never saw the kids because, quote, she knew how much he valued their marriage and valued their family, and it was his desire to be able to get back with the family and preserve the marriage. The attorney continues, he's a very gentle guy, and no one's ever made any allegations that he's ever physically abused those kids or anyone else. He just wants to do what's best for his kids and get them back, get them under his tutelage and his fathership to protect them. Many netizens feel, I don't buy these excuses. You left for a year and completely cut your kids off. Your therapist tricked you into child neglect and abandonment? Yeah, okay, no one's buying it. A lot of netizens are conflicted, writing, I always had the impression that Kevin was pretty weak and just let Ruby take the lead. It's obvious now. It's still hard to imagine how he saw everything that was coming out of Jodi and he still allowed her access to the kids with him totally out of the picture.
Which one is more evil? The person who is doing the act or the person who watches and does nothing? I feel like, at least for the people who inflict pain or do evil things, they have the balls to do it. And you can point finger and be like, you are evil because you're doing this. I saw you, right? And you can put them to the side, categorize them. But the person who just stands there and does nothing, I feel like they're way worse. Because they first and foremost, they don't have the balls to pick a side. Like, are you gonna be evil or are you gonna be good? Or are you gonna be freaking a coward, right? Um, like I feel like that's way worse for some reason. Just standing there doing nothing and let things just happen. Like, save the ones that are oppressed, or I'm not saying you should oppress people, like inflict pain on people. I'm not saying that. But like, do something, pick a freaking side. Because you're actually not doing is also part of the problem. It's causing pain too. Because you're just watching. Okay, maybe it's not way worse, but it's equally worse. Okay? Like you see somebody getting beat up. Yeah, sure. Okay, you don't want to get beating up. Like you don't want to get beat up, so you don't say anything. I get that. But then when once they're done getting beat up, you just leave them there to die. You don't call for help, nothing. You just look at them and like, oh, hi, did you get beat up? Oh, okay. and then you just walk away. That's crazy. I feel like that's equally evil as well. That's leaving them to die. So yeah, you might as well be is equally evil as, you know. I know I'm going like I'm like out of point, or I'm like, what is English sometimes? I can't even express myself. Like, it's so confusing to explain, but and out of tangent right now, but I feel like Kevin is equally evil as Ruby. I don't know. That's my stance. What do you guys think?
Everything that was coming out of Jody, and he still allowed her access to the kids with him totally out of the picture. He was both victim and perpetrator to some degree. I think it is the belief of many that Kevin's true saving grace are his kids, that they are somewhat in his lives. Otherwise, I think the internet would rip him apart. I think the fact that Chad is trying to have a relationship with him, Sherry, I think while more wary, perhaps, she seems to be open to the idea of one day having a relationship with him, though she still calls him Kevin. It seems like that is his only saving grace. The fact that Chad even said, for my dad, I understand that in order to get his family back and not run into problems with my mom and our therapist, he had to obey her rules and follow each step. But one comment just reads, after reading Sherry Franke's book, you can see the extraordinary work that she has done to be in a better place, and Kevin is nowhere near his daughter's presence of mind, which she did with zero assistance from her father. Kevin needs to work on his own accountability, lessen the blame and excuses, and find a backbone that he never had as a protector. Others think that Ruby's siblings and parents are also at fault to some degree. Some netizens have expressed frustration, stating that the siblings must have known something, and could have done something to protect the kids. Bonnie, Ruby's sister, has publicly come out to condemn Kevin, saying, the one person that could have done something and had the legal right was Kevin. It was Kevin's job to check in on things, and he did not. She also posted a video titled, I am not my sister, I am not my sister's crimes, which a lot of netizens didn't really like the title of that video. I mean, I get it. A lot of people were coming on to the siblings saying, how did you not protect your nieces and nephews? But at the same time, I think as an aunt myself, it's unhinged. Ruby's siblings explained that for the past few years, Ruby and Kevin have pushed them out of their lives because they all hated connections. Bonnie says,
my thoughts towards Ruby and Jody and Kevin and connections is that it was all bullcrap. It was complete indoctrination of this thing that they created. I don't agree with how extreme they are on everything. I knew they were weird. I knew that they were off. Those are the things that we kept quiet about, because what was I gonna say? What was I going to do? I was not going to come out and publicly say that I don't like my sister and I don't like what she's doing and I think she's weird. That is what we kept quiet about.
Keeping quiet is the problem. Keeping quiet is a problem too. I forget the lyrics, but one of my favorite rapper, my bias, said, I forget. I think it's in Polar Nights. I've mentioned this 100 billion times. Um, like, we are also hypocrites for keeping quiet because it doesn't affect us. Like, the people, just because something doesn't affect you and you choose to keep quiet about it, you're also part of the problem. You're also a hypocrite, essentially. So, I'm sorry, Bonnie. Like, if you are an aunt, wouldn't you check up on your niece and nephews? I know we're busy with our own lives, but once in a blue moon, don't we just say, hey, can we hang out with the kids, or let the kids hang out all together? Right? Like, and if you know that this is weird, why didn't you like seek help for your sister, right? Or something. Maybe she didn't know what was happening to the children. Yes, I can give her that. But why didn't she seek help for the sister if she felt like this was a weird situation? Or why didn't they talk to her? Why didn't she say, hey, parents, um, our sibling is going down a crazy path, so let's just like talk to her or something? Or did they do that? Did they exhaust all the options before they gave up and just stayed quiet? I don't know.
And I think she's weird. That is what we kept quiet about.
Julie, another one of Ruby's sisters, says,
we all saw it. We all felt weird about this Jody lady. We weren't comfortable with it. We didn't like it. We didn't like the teachings Ruby was bringing to the family functions, and we were this close to telling her, if you come to our family events anymore, we do not want to hear what you were learning through Connections because we don't like it. We never did say that to her, but we thought it. Anyway, so 3 years ago, Ruby and I hung out bottling tomatoes, and then a few weeks later, crap hit the fan and she left the family. She did call my mom and yelled at my mom on the phone for 45 minutes and accused her of things that were not true. Basically, I'm here to say that I had no idea what was happening. Like Bonnie mentioned in her video, we are not going to let Ruby destroy another thing in our lives. We have our platforms where we try and bring brightness and positivity into other people's lives, and that is why we didn't talk about Ruby in our content for the past 3 years.
Sherry writes in her book, it took around 2 to 3 years before Ruby would cut ties entirely with her family. And as I watched Ruby delete contact after contact from her phone, I couldn't help but wonder, was this healing? I will say, I don't think it's right for people to blame Ruby's siblings and parents for things that they would not have known, because we don't know what they knew. We don't know how much Ruby was telling them, how much their nieces and nephews were disclosing with them. Probably not much. But I do think a lot of netizens didn't like their reactions. It came off very angry, and it came off a little bizarre. It just felt like they wanted more sympathy for the process that they as a family unit were going through, rather than just feeling protective over their nieces and nephews. Making things even more complicated is that most of Ruby's siblings are family vloggers. Some of them are more aggressively family vloggers, and some of them are more vloggers that show their families, which Sherry has been an incredible advocate for passing laws for family vlogging and child influencers. She recently got a bill passed in Utah legislature, and they are waiting for the governor to just sign it to become law. It's a bill aimed at protecting children of family vloggers. It would require parents to set aside a portion of their earnings into a trust fund for their children. Kind of like if you had a child that was in Hollywood, you have to set aside money for them for when they turn 18, if they're working as a child. And there's another part of that bill that is when that child turns 18, they have the right to request the removal of any and all content that they are featured in. Utah is one of the biggest states for family vlogging, so this is monumental. And again, please read Sherry's book. I think even if it's like, yeah, family vlogging is bad, by reading her book, it does provide such a visceral perspective that honestly, I think it changed my brain chemistry on pretty much everything that has to do with family vlogging. Sherry stated before, I would tell myself it doesn't matter what they say. I know how I feel about myself. I think I believed that for a while, but I would always find myself just checking comments on Instagram, on YouTube, just to see what people had to say about whether it was good or bad. It's like, okay, I just want to be aware of what people are saying, I guess. And personally speaking, I could probably work myself into a full-blown panic attack just by going and seeking out negative comments on the internet. And I'm an adult with a whole support system. Sherry, this was when she was a child. I read through old snark forums, not on Reddit, like a different website that should never be named and should not even exist. These are comments from 2016, before Ruby Franke was canceled. The comments that people are leaving about Ruby Franke's children, about literal 7-year-olds, were some of the most disgusting things I've ever read. You would think that these children committed grave crimes against humanity. It was really deplorable. I genuinely had a crisis in the middle of the night one night where I'm like, who are these people? Are these adults doing this? Because that's crazy. Who seeks out these forums and goes on to have lengthy discussions about how much they hate, first of all, a 7-year-old child, and second of all, a 7-year-old child that they had never even met before? Sherry details one comment stuck with her, which was, Sherry is such a kiss ass. She's always ratting out her siblings and trying to be Ruby's favorite. So smug. Sherry remembers thinking, and she writes in her book, I'm not sucking up. I'm surviving. There's a difference. She says, family vlogging ruined my innocence long before Ruby committed a crime. I promise you that my experiences are not unique and are happening to child influencers all over Utah and the country. So this makes everything kind of trickier considering Ruby's siblings, many of them are still making family vlogging content with Sherry's cousins. And some of them have pivoted, so they show way less of their kids now after everything that's happened, but some of them have not. One of Ruby's sisters would even state that her vlogging is very different from 8 Passengers because her kids have a choice. They have a voice and they have a retirement fund growing for them when they turn into adults, which of course netizens have very mixed feelings about. As for Jessie, Jody's niece, they say one of the worst parts of Jody's abuse is that she makes you believe that you deserve it. They say, I was in it. I believed it real strong. Even when all this stuff was going on with Jody, what made it so much worse is that I kept on internalizing it. I fully believed it. I fully believed that this was God's will. And if I had just put myself over to the Lord, if I had just prayed more, if I was more faithful, that all of this would end up being for good, that I truly needed everything that Jody was doing. I deserved it and I needed it. In this case, it was really extreme, where the abuse was so extreme. But then if you bear it, then you would get these moments of immense reward from her. And it's just such a psychological fury. They continue, the prerequisites of this is already instilled in the Mormon church of having to earn love. This has affected my life forever, for the rest of my life. It's this whole thought of, if I try a little harder, if I do a little bit more, maybe they'll love me, maybe they'll accept me. It took me over a decade to get to a point where I didn't think that I was actually evil. Even their parents did not want to face the truth. They basically told them along the lines of, whenever Jessie would display anger and pain at what they went through with Jody, they would just tell them along the lines of, get over yourself. It must be so hard for you to carry around such toxic emotions all the time. They say, it doesn't stop. This nearly killed me. This has affected every aspect of my life, every single part, my ability to have friends, my ability to have partners, my ability to hold down jobs. I mean, I have complex PTSD from this. Remember how in part 1, we went over how Ruby decided that the 2 youngest kids were not going to have Christmas presents because they were getting the gift of love and boundaries. Same thing happened to Jessie under Jody. Jessie says, it sounds like such a trivial thing, but no one gave me attention on my birthday. Jody informed me, it's your birthday, but you don't deserve any attention for it. You didn't earn it. You didn't earn the right to be special, so no holidays were celebrated for me. I didn't receive any presents. Adam Paul Steed from part 2, his marriage and life was ruined because he went to Jody for therapy on the recommendation of his church bishop. He went to Jody's sentencing and he said, when I saw Ruby Franke, I saw my ex-wife sitting there saying the same exact thing. My ex-wife would have said the exact same thing Ruby Franke said today.
Oh, okay.
Which was what? Was it the thank you note?
Like
or?
everything.
And just like all of the, Jody made me do this.
Oh.
And a lot of other women would have said the same thing. You have no idea how many victims are out there. Their minds have been messed up so much with this. The prosecutor said that he said the children thought it was their fault. All of the adult men think it's their fault. All of the women think it's their fault. Jody Hildebrandt grows off people's pain and destruction. And when she sat there and said she loved the children, I almost fell out of my chair. The only thing, look at her version of loving children, is finding a way to make them hurt, and more than anything possible, it's like an energy she feeds off of. Jody doesn't love children. Jody is like Ted Bundy. Chad, the eldest son, was in the documentary and has been very transparent about how he's healing and dealing with everything. He's very active on his social media accounts. I think that you guys should go and show support if you'd like. He went viral recently for his TikToks about Ruby. He has one where he says he got a tattoo for his mom. He wipes his arm and there's no tattoo. Or another one where he shows Mr. Beast making contestants sleep on a beanbag as a challenge, and he said he would have killed it. A lot of netizens are glad that he's able to find ways to cope and heal, and using humor seems to be a good method, hopefully. He's also a realtor, so if you guys have realtor needs, you know where to go. Chad says, I definitely hate the things Ruby did. I have no contact with her right now, and I don't plan to anytime soon. But then again, she's still blood. She's still my mom, and maybe down the road eventually, I'll have a conversation with her. Chad is asked, do you miss her? He said, I miss a mother figure. I miss how she was when I was very young. But I think what she's going through is deserved. I don't think that she should get out till all the kids turn 18 years old. But that doesn't mean that I don't have love for her. Sherry attended Ruby's sentencing. She said, I said I was not going to look at Ruby. I don't care to see her. So I just stared at the judge the entire time. I personally have seen too many crocodile tears from her, so I can't say whether she's sorry. Sherry is asked by the documentary, where are you right now with Ruby? Where are you at with Ruby? I will never talk to her again. Whether she's the most apologetic person in the world or not, that doesn't change anything for me. We have one childhood and one mom, and that was mine. Sherry says, I'm still angry about what she did, of course. That's never going to go away, but I'm living my life, and I'm not letting her take any more of that from me than she's already taken. As for how she feels about Kevin, she states, I would never forget the pain that he caused, ignored, and enabled. He has not been absolved, but I have chosen to release the burden of resentment that I held against him. By doing that, I was granting myself the freedom to heal. She has since announced that she is engaged and she is closing the public chapter of her life. She will no longer be sharing details about her future husband, her future children, but she will be posting about all the work that she's doing to protect children influencers and children that are used for family vlogging content creation. And hopefully she'll write more books. Even if they're fiction, I know that she's a huge history buff. I would read every single thing that she writes. She's an incredible writer. She has such a witty yet vulnerable voice. The way that she's able to balance it, even when she's talking about such personal, heavy topics, I think is a skill that most people don't have. So again, go get her book. Kevin has since filed for divorce. He states that he requested that Ruby stop reaching out to him. He says in an interview, the last letter that I received from her from prison was maybe in March or April of last year, and then I requested the Department of Corrections to ask her to stop writing me. I didn't want to hear anymore. I didn't like what she was saying, and I'm not going to share that. That's between her and me, but it just didn't feel right, and it didn't feel good, and I'm very angry. I'm still very angry, and I need space, and I need time. I'm not ashamed to say that after being married over 20 years to that woman, I truly did and still do love her, but that doesn't excuse what she did, and it doesn't excuse how she hurt our children and how she hurt me. And there's some things, there's some bridges that you just can't cross and then cross back. She burned the bridges. As of today, I'm still working through the divorce. We're trying to reach a settlement. It's been a long process. It appears that he has moved back into the family home and is currently seeking custody of the 4 underage children. Jessie Hildebrandt, Jody's niece, that was tortured prior to Jody and Ruby teaming up to inflict maximum amount of pain on children. They are now a tattoo artist in Seattle. They say they're kind of like a grandma. Honestly, they just like to stay home, make sourdough bread. They say it's an uphill battle of becoming happy and successful in the wake of no familial support and severe abuse. It's just inexplicable to describe. In a lot of ways, I do feel really lucky that I have been able to create the life that I have and to have the friends that I have, the chosen family that I have. I feel very fortunate. As for Adam, Jody called him the most threatening, scary person that she had ever dealt with. Adam says, I guess that's my new claim to fame, the most threatening person in Jody's life. I will be along with Jessie because I have the truth. And because of that, so many people will come forward. As for the case, Adam says about Jody and Ruby, how dare you think you could do this and get away with it? Jody is far worse than someone that physically abuses kids. She got into their heads and makes them feel helpless and hopeless. I'm up at night. I can't even explain what it's been like to have to wait 15 years for Jody Hildebrandt to go to prison. Life is short, and this lady stole more innocence from my life than any abuser did. He's remarried to an Egyptian Syrian doctor. He says, she's got her feet on the ground. She grounds me. Whenever I have trauma, just in 2 seconds. She means the world to me. Now we have this beautiful little baby boy. I took a bath with my baby boy this morning and with my wife, and it was intimate and beautiful. And so to the long line of predators in my life who thought they could steal that from me, well, they can't. And nor can they. Victims feel like they have no innocence. Find your innocence again. Find good friends, good people, find love, and find meaning. I promise every victim out there that you will go through a lot of negative feelings and trauma, and a lot of people will just try to push it out the window. Embrace it. Pull your trigger so much that they no longer work. Stand up with your chin high knowing it'll cause a hurricane for a while. But afterwards, you're gonna live in the free world, not in bars or cages with triggers everywhere. Have a complete different philosophy that truth leads us to freedom, not to complete and utter control. And don't feel sorry for me. I'm going home to the cutest, most beautiful, fun wife and baby and life that's going in the right direction. So don't feel sorry for me. And don't ever think that Jody is a super powerful lady. She's not. These abusers, they're not. The ones that have chosen to abandon love are not powerful people. About Adam Paulsteed, one netizen comments, it's chilling how they turned a true victim into a make-believe predator. Shocked at how easily Jody exploited Adam's trauma and how stupidly the wife accepted it. Jody is clearly a sick sadist, but the wife sounds like an insensitive fool. Stupid or not, I hope she's haunted for life about what she's done. Another reads, Adam's story was heartbreaking and extremely enlightening. I feel for him and his family, and hearing everything that he's went through was so hard. About his ex-wife, netizens are divided on how to feel, but most agree. I think she was victimized and controlled by Jody, but her behavior was unforgivable. The system failed Adam, and she and her parents and Jody tortured an innocent man. As for Ruby, one netizen just puts bluntly, she has about as much empathy as a doorknob.
I would also agree that I don't think Ruby has ever been a good mom. I don't think she's ever had it in her to really be selfless. I don't think that's part of Ruby's DNA.
For Jody, one person writes, regardless of how much prison time she ends up serving, one day she's gonna die alone, and no one will be at her funeral unless it's to piss on her grave. She's incapable of being loved or loving anyone in return, and I love that for her. Others were just shocked at Jody Hildebrandt's actions. Even her niece has stated that some aspects of Jody, if it weren't so evil, so depraved, and so vile, it would almost be funny at how ridiculous Jody Hildebrandt is. Netizens are having a bit of a field day with the footage of her pretending to be possessed, with comments reading, she's the girl at sleepovers that pretends to talk in her sleep. Others speculate, I think she was pretending to do that so that Kevin wouldn't question the weird noises coming out of her bedroom. Or another, the secondhand embarrassment I felt knowing she was so committed to the bit. Or another reading, girl, you are too grown for this. And that is the case of Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt. What are your thoughts on this? When do you think that they're going to get out?
Never.
Let me know in the comments. Go buy Sherry's book, and I will see you in the next one. Stay safe.
I hope they never come out. Please, so we do not need these people. Anyways, I think the world's a better place without them, actually. Well, my stance on this is I hope the kids will find healing, right? Especially the two younger ones who had to endure all this physical, mental, emotional abuse by the Satans. Um, I hope there will be, yeah, it's because they were young, it's gonna be traumatic. They're gonna grow up with trauma, but I hope and pray that they're okay. And from spectators like us, right? What we can take away from situations like this that we watch, it's not, we don't watch this so that we, get angry. We watch this to learn and also to be aware that, hey, if something is wrong, if we see something wrong, let's use our voice because people like the kids didn't have voices. So I'm really really happy that the neighbors, I know it didn't help, it didn't work out, but the neighbors, some of them called social service, is that how you call them, and then the police. I know it didn't work, but some of them tried, right? So what we can do as human being is to use our voice to speak up with people who do not have a voice. That's how we can help. So instead of us sitting in the background, just spectating, doing nothing, we need to do something. If we see someone getting hurt, we see somebody getting oppressed, we have to speak up. If that is watching a video or reacting to it, that could be. If it's about posting so that people will get aware, that's fine. If it is physically going to a rally and holding up a sign, so be it. If that's filing a lawsuit, if that's writing a book, if that's, I don't know, any way, any little way, we don't have to, you know, like use millions and thousands of dollars to fight for people who can fight for themselves, right? And this could be in any situation in the world, like, the wars that are going on here and there. We could use our platforms. If you have, if you don't, even our small friends, like we have 10 friends on social media, even just sharing posts will help, right? um yeah, so whenever I watch this type of stuff, that's where my head is at. It's like, how can we stop this from happening to the next person? But yeah, I really pray for the kids, all of them, Sherry, Chad, two teenagers, and then the two younger children. I bet that, I mean, the two kids, the eldest, they're doing good, both of them. So I pray that they continue to grow and you know, keep doing what you're doing. They're so brave. I don't know. Me, I don't think I can. They're so, like, they're so much better than me because I don't think I could. I would break. I would give up on life, okay? I would be like, it's over. Like, so I'm really, really happy for them and proud. So thank you guys for joining me on this journey. It was long, but it was also very insightful and educational. So I'll see you in our next video. Bye.